Buenos días, es el viernes y son las 12. Hello everyone, it's Friday and it's 12 o'clock, so it's time for Community Spanish, broadcasting every Wednesday and Friday at 12. In addition to our Community Spanish program, we also have Community French going, starting and actually on a new schedule next week on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Then we also have a Community Mandarin on Mondays and Thursdays at 12:30. And lastly, we have Children's French, Children's Bedtime Stories Tuesdays through Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. So there's lots of stuff to tune into here. In addition, we have on our Instagram, we also have an Instagram Live for Portuguese lessons. So there's also another language to check out on our Instagram. One quick reminder before we get into, or two quick reminders before we get into today's lesson. Number one is that the March schedule is going to be posted this weekend. So if you're looking to join a class in the upcoming month, that information will be available very quickly, or very soon, I mean. And the second reminder is that today is the day of La Charla, so which is a monthly event that we have for those of you who are learning Spanish, either they're presently learning or past have already learned, and maybe you're not an active learner, but it's a once-a-month event we have to practice speaking Spanish and just kind of very casual conversation. It's just 1 hour. We said we have this event every month, and anyone that really is welcome to participate, whether you're an active student at Rola or not. It doesn't really matter. It costs $5 to attend this event, so hopefully pretty accessible to everyone. And we have it happening today in February. It's Friday the 5th. And it's from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Boston time this evening. So there is still a little bit of time to sign up if you would like to join. You can check out on our website on rolalanguages.com on the Zoom chats page. You can see a little bit more information about this event, and the registration form is right there in case you want to join. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So we're continuing to do a little bit of review. We had been working on saber previously, the verb to know in Spanish, but particularly in the use of for information and for facts. And so today I want to take a look at the other verb for knowing in Spanish, which is the verb conocer. So we're going to go into a little bit of that. And so if you don't know about these verbs already, as I said, this is supposed to be a review video. So if you're new to this topic, don't worry. You're totally welcome to kind of take a pause on this. And if you want to check out the original video I made on the subject where I first introduced it, that would be maybe a great step for you if you want to take a look at that first before you come back to this review video. But otherwise, I'm going to proceed ahead with the review of it, assuming you do have some knowledge. So again, we are going to be taking a look at that, and then as always doing an exercise together to practice and see and make sure our knowledge is really kind of everything's making sense, not just as theoretical, but also about how to use these things. So quick review of conocer first before we get into our exercise. So again, conocer is a translation of the verb to know in English, which in English we have one verb to know. In Spanish, we have two verbs for knowing things used for different cases. So as I said, for saber, we had learned previously that saber is used to know like facts or information. So that's how we're most likely going to be using that one, or talking about skills of something you know how to do. So again, still kind of facts and information based. That's the main theme for use of saber. But for conocer, which we're going to be looking at today, it is also knowing, but in a different sense. And so the couple of senses that we're going to work on, we'll get to in 1 second. But first, just to review quickly the conjugations of conocer, which are similar to saber in the sense that the yo is irregular, but all the other conjugations are regular. So that's just kind of a funny coincidence between these two verbs, that for both of them, the yo form is irregular and the rest of the forms are regular. So just to refresh our memory on the conjugations, por repite después de mí, repeat after me. For yo, it's conozco, conozco. So make sure that if you're pronouncing for that zeta, that if you're a native English speaker, that you're not going to make it like a Z sound. Now, depending on where you are in the Spanish-speaking world, there is a little bit of variation on how this letter is pronounced. But wherever you go, it's true that the Z sound we have in English does not exist in Spanish. So either you're going to be pronouncing like more like an S sound, like I do with conozco, or if you are wanting to train more of a Spain Spanish accent, they pronounce this letter, the zeta, as theta, more like a TH sound. So you'd say conozco. Okay, so that's going to be a different pronunciation. Again, for me, I'm doing more of the with the S, but whatever you do, just make sure you're not hanging on that kind of Z English sound. Okay, conozco, conozco. Okay, and onto the tu form, we have conoces, conoces. Él, ella, usted, conoce, conoce. Nosotros, nosotras, conocemos, conocemos. Vosotros, vosotras, conocéis, conocéis. And ellos, ellas, ustedes conocen, conocen. Muy bien. Make sure that you're putting that emphasis on the second to last syllable. So not conocen, but conocen. Okay. So that second to last vowel is where your default stress should go when you're pronouncing in Spanish. Okay, so that's just a quick review of the conjugations. And again, about the usage. So this verb conocer, we're using mostly to speak about knowing people. So this is one of the main uses we have for conocer, but also to describe it in general, having a familiarity with something. So when we say, like when we use saber, it's a little bit more definitive, like you know something. But with conocer, we can kind of have more shades of gray in terms of expressing how familiar you are with something. So again, first we talked about conocer in the sense of a person. So we can see, for example, here with the explanation here, conocer plus a, because we always have to have the a personal. So this is how we're going to use that for a person, or this one, it gets a little bit more into that gray area, depending on for animals, depending on if you view that animal more like a pet or like it's an animal you know, then you can have the option to use the a personal, which normally is reserved for humans, but for pets or other animals that we have relationships with, we also can use the a for those. So that's another way another time you might use that here. So, por ejemplo, conozco a Felipe. So I know Felipe, I know Philip, conozco a Felipe using that personal a. Or for example, tú conoces a María, you know María. Again, knowing her as a person. And we're adding the a for the personal a. Now, the other way, as I said, is again describing a level of familiarity. So we might often use this to describe places. So, for example, talking about, we have the sentence here, conozco Puerto Rico, which is, we could translate as I know Puerto Rico, or I'm familiar with Puerto Rico. And then you can use other words to kind of express either a strength or a weakness of that knowledge. So, for example, we can use conozco bien, I know well, conozco muy bien, I know very well, conozco poco, like I'm not very familiar, or conozco muy poco, I'm really not familiar at all, essentially. So we can use more of these words to add different levels to qualify our familiarity. So those are kind of the two overarching themes that we've learned with conocer. So that it's to know people and to express some level of familiarity. So we're going to do one exercise together to kind of start stretching our legs, as it were, with this verb. So as usual, I encourage you to participate along with me as much as you'd like. I'm going to walk us through the exercise, but if you're watching this, feel free to share your own answers in the comments below, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. And whether you're watching it live or even if you're watching it after the fact, it's still great to have more participation. So por favor, escribe tus respuestas en los comentarios abajo. So please feel free to share your answers in the comments below. Okay, so let's get started on this quick exercise. Número uno. Yo no blank al profesor nuevo. So we can see that yo here is going to tell us which form we're looking for with conocer. This is where we have to remember that one irregular verb that we practiced at the start, which hopefully you still remember, is conozco or conozco if you're doing more of the Spanish, the Castilian Spanish accent. So, número uno, yo no conozco al profesor nuevo. And please feel free to repeat these out loud with me as we go. It will really help you to not only to remember the answer, but also, of course, work on your pronunciation. So, yo no conozco al profesor nuevo. I don't know the new teacher. Número dos. Vosotros, is we're given to us in the parentheses, blank, muy bien, la ciudad de Valencia. So with vosotros, you remember back, I know some of you maybe would be less familiar since you don't really use vosotros if you're not studying Spain Spanish, but at Rola, we like to teach all the different forms and just kind of let our students know about the diversity of Spanish. So we still offer them more information about vosotros, even if it's not used in most countries. So we have conocéis is going to be the form going here. So vosotros conocéis muy bien la ciudad de Valencia. So you all are very familiar with the city of Valencia. Okay, número tres is a question, blank, tú este pintor, blanco, tú este pintor. So here the form going with tú is going to be conoces. Conoces. ¿Conoces tú este pintor? Do you know or are you familiar with this painter? Número cuatro. Él no blank a Arturo. Él no blanco a Arturo. So form of conocer going with él. Remember from the él, ella, usted is going to be conoce. Él no conoce a Arturo. Él no conoce a Arturo. So he doesn't know Arturo. He's not familiar with Arturo. Again, because it's a person, we're going to be using conocer. Okay, número 5. Ustedes blank Boston. Ustedes blank Boston. So ustedes, which shares the same form as ellos and ellas, as you hopefully remember by now, is going to use conocen for the form. Conocen. So together we have ustedes conocen Boston. You all know or you all are familiar with Boston. Número 6. Es verdad que nosotros blank a Miranda. Es verdad que nosotros blank a Miranda. Okay, so we have nosotros here as our guide, nosotros. So remember back to that, the chart, if you can visualize, if you're one of those visual photographic learners, was conocemos. So all together, todo junto. Es verdad que nosotros conocemos a Miranda. It's true that we know Miranda. Okay, número 7. Ella blank bien este barrio porque lleva 20 años aquí. Ella blank bien este barrio porque lleva 20 años aquí. So ella, from going with ella, would be the same as él and usted. It's going to be conoce. So la frase todo junta. Ella conoce bien este barrio porque lleva 20 años aquí. She knows this neighborhood very well. She knows this neighborhood well. She's familiar with it because she's been here for 20 years. So like this phrase, porque lleva 20 años aquí, is like literally because she carries with her 20 years here. So that's like she has 20 years of experience under her belt. Okay, and the last one, número 8. Él no sabe que usted ya blank a su madre. Él no sabe que usted ya blanco a su madre. So here we're going with usted, again, making sure we did not get confused by the L that's mentioned at the start of the sentence, although in this particular case, actually doesn't have any effect on having the right answer because él and usted share the same form, but just generally speaking, we want to make sure that we know exactly what person the blank is referring to, so don't get distracted by the first person they mentioned, because really the person important to this blank is usted. So usted form can be the same as él and ella, and we have conoce again, like the last one. So all together, él no sabe que usted ya conoce a su madre. So he doesn't know that you in the polite formal sense, with what usted means, that you already know his mom. Okay, excelente. So that wraps up this exercise. Hope that was helpful for you in your practice with Conocer. I'm going to be doing at least one other additional video to review a little bit more with Conocer and get a little bit more practice. But in the meantime, as I said, you're welcome to go check out on our website if you want to see the original video I did on Conocer. And also, I think I did and saber as well. I've made several videos on both the subjects, both in the original introduction and also in some review. So there's a lot of material there. And if you're interested to see any other videos, we have all of the videos we've posted for Community Spanish and our other Facebook Live programs are all up on the website. So you can go to the Facebook Live page of the website, and there's essentially like a humongous video library there. And in addition, we have several worksheets with many of the videos. So if you want to get even more practice past what you see in the video, there's even more resources for you to check out there. And these are all free resources. So we're happy for you to share them around and let people know the link to the page, and also let them know about these community language series. So with that, I'll next be back on Wednesday at 12 for the next Community Spanish. Gracias y adiós.